What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, aka Unique Mazique. I am the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and we are here right now. I'm going to talk to you about a few things today, but I wanted to wait. I know this one is coming in kind of late, but I wanted to wait until after, um, the game went off today. Obviously, it's the start of the NFL season. Uh, you know, something actually a lot of people probably didn't even think was going to happen, but it got going today pretty much without much of a hitch, at least from what we could see, uh, on the broadcast. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I also want to talk about the NBA playoffs, what happened with the Lakers and the Rockets today, and I also want to talk about some next gen 2K talk, some next gen Madden talk, next gen MLB The Show. We can throw some Patriots stuff in there as well as the Bears. Maybe even sneak in some Bulls. But I got a couple things, like I said, I wanted to touch on first before I start getting to some questions because I know usually I don't have any idea how many people will be here today for this, but usually we get some discussion a little bit about just some things that you guys may have on your mind that you want to talk about. So I am basically making sure that this link is out here for people to see, and we're gonna go from there. Hopefully we got that together right. So yeah, I see we got some people here. Appreciate y'all coming through. Dope D, Jordan Lattimore, Colin, what's going on, sir? I know you probably supposed to be in the bed, but I appreciate you anyway, Colin, being in here. What's going on, D? You don't want the Bears talk, huh? Ron Colin, hopefully you'll keep this up. I'm at work, so I can't stay and watch. I appreciate you, man. I feel you. Uh no PS5 news yet. No, Taylor Malone, what is going on, my brother? I appreciate you coming through. Um, but yeah, let me make sure that I got this link going out properly. I may have to redo this joint just to make sure it's going through properly. Uh, but yeah, man, this didn't go through right, so we gotta do this again. But this was a heck of a kickoff to the season, not because it was like a great game necessarily, but just because of everything that was at play. I mean, it was so much going on. Like it took me, I want to say, the first 15-20 minutes of the game to kind of like get into the game because it kept feeling like, I don't know, like something was gonna happen that was just gonna be like, okay, we can no longer watch the football game because I just didn't feel comfortable at first. And then with everything that was going on, obviously before it even started, like I mean, totally understand and am behind, all of the social awareness things. It just felt like for a long time, for the first maybe 15-20 minutes of the game, um, it just felt like all that stuff was, football was so secondary. And so I took me a minute to actually like really get into the game. And I was just like, but once I finally got there, I was I was honestly felt really, really impressed with the way that the whole broadcast just came about, period. I thought it came about really well. It just I was impressed. I was like, I thought it was gonna be um a little clunkier than it was, and it wasn't that at all. It was pretty smooth, as a matter of fact. So definitely kudos to uh the to the network for being able to put on a you know, just a strong presentation amongst a lot of different things going on. Because for me personally, it's really difficult. It would like to me, like everybody knows that the NFL is kind of full of trash. Like we all know that, right? We all know that, the way they tried to come off is in terms of being extremely socially conscious and all that. Everybody pretty much knows the NFL has one agenda, and it is to make money. They don't care about all this other stuff. I mean, if they did, we wouldn't even be in the situation that we're in overall in the NFL. Period, just overall. So, eh, you know, that's just the way I look at it. I just feel like that's just where it is, so but I know that they're in a position where they really couldn't afford to do anything else but come off this way. So I can't, like, if they didn't do it, everybody would be saying, and they didn't even do anything about about the social injustice issues. But then when they do it because of their history, you just kind of like, yeah, it really doesn't mean as much to you. And so it's just it was kind of like one of those situations where they're damned if they do, they damned if they don't. Because based off of their history, they really are kind of like in a no-win situation. So that's a lot of that's on them because of just the way they have handled things in the past. But it is what it is. But as far as the game itself, man, Patrick Mahomes and these Chiefs, man, I'm trying to tell you, I just this offense looks so scary right now, y'all. I mean, I'm trying to tell y'all, this offense looks so scary right now that I just don't know what teams are gonna do to try to stop them, man. I mean, last year they got the running backs, they got Damian Williams involved, and he had a great game in the Super Bowl, but we didn't really see that from them throughout the regular season. They were primarily a passing offense and using the short passes as like run plays, which is kind of what Andy Reid has done throughout his career. But now, man, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, man, this dude and the way they run blocked in between the tackles, it's like you really don't know what the Chiefs are bringing to you from a week in, week out basis as far as on their offense. I mean, you just don't know. They can air it out. I mean, it felt like Tyreek Hill had maybe 4 or 5 targets the whole game. And so they used him as a decoy much of the game, got him his touchdown pass later in the game, but they used him as a decoy for a long period of this time. I'm gonna look and see how many targets he did have. He had 6 targets. It didn't seem like it. He had 5 catches on 6 targets. It certainly didn't feel like he had that many targets at all. He was tied for second in targets behind Sammy Watkins, who saw a lot of love. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, man, in his debut game, 25 carries, 138 yards, a touchdown. He put a move. He put a move. I'm trying to remember which safety this was he got in the hole. I mean, he got him in the open field. I don't know, maybe it was Justin Reed. I don't know whoever it was. He's still looking for his shoes because he put a foot in the ground on my man on that 27-yard touchdown run. And it's one thing to have your offensive line usher you to the second level. It's another thing to have that kind of wiggle in the open field. It's just crazy. Larry King, what's going on, my brother? I appreciate you coming through. As far as the chat, I'm gonna, you guys can ask whatever questions you want. I'm gonna go through a couple of things I want to talk about, and then I'm gonna go to the chat and start answering questions. I won't be here too long tonight because I do understand it is pretty late. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get in, say what I gotta say, and then bounce. But yeah, I had to touch on what we were looking at with the Chiefs. As a Bears fan, I'm trying to tell y'all this was very difficult, and this has to be difficult for any Bears fan to watch because to know that you're struggling right now, we're struggling right now with Mitchell Trubisky as our quarterback, and you're watching Patrick Mahomes, arguably the best quarterback in the game, and Deshaun Watson, probably a top 5 quarterback in the game. And the Bears could have had both of those guys. But instead, you got Mitchell Trubisky, who seemingly won the quarterback competition over Nick Foles by default. Then you look at the fact that the Patriots, a team that I cover for Heavy.com, signed Cam Newton for a $7.5 million deal, and the only way he gets that is if he hits every incentive known to man. He's only guaranteed $550,000 out of that contract, and the Patriots signed him for that. The Bears had an opportunity, didn't even bother, didn't call, didn't nothing, you know. And yet now we hear some rumors today that they were runners up for Tom Brady. Whoop-de-doo, whoop-de-doo. It's a tough look. It's a tough look if you're a Bears fan right now. It's a real tough look. And if you look at most predictions have the Bears finishing third or fourth in the division. And I'm telling you, it's hard to who can imagine the Bears having a better record than the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings? Like I can't, I can't. You can be the eternal optimist all you want, but I can't imagine the Bears having a better record than both of those teams. Not unless we see the breakout of all breakouts from Mitchell Trubisky. But what have we seen from him that would suggest something like that's on the way? So it's just tough, man. Like I said, it's real tough right now if you are a Bears fan. This is one of the toughest times. The worst place you can be in as a fan is to have your team not have everything that it needs, and you know that it doesn't have everything that it needs, right? And to feel like you don't see any real room or any place where it's going to get better, like down the line. Like, I don't know what happens with the Bears. Like, what needs to go on? Like, okay, they suck this year, and you get a decent draft pick, and you hope, how bad do you suck? I mean, you suck bad enough to try to get Trevor Lawrence? That's probably a top 2-3 pick, more than likely a number 1 pick. Are you gonna suck? It's just a bad situation, just a bad situation. And then now you're dependent on a rookie quarterback, and we know how that works out. So it's just like I said, it's a nasty place to be in if you're a Bears fan. So that is what it is. But let's talk about the NBA. And like I said, I'm going to jump into you guys. We went out of focus a little bit here. Let's talk about the NBA. What happened with the Lakers and the Rockets tonight? I made a comment. I tweeted this. I don't ever want to hear, and some people were like, who was saying that? I'm telling you, I had arguments with people last year. Some cats, and it was mostly younger NBA fans. Some cats were telling me that James Harden was just as good, if not better, than Michael Jordan. And it was because, he was putting up insane scoring numbers and all of this stuff he was doing. I'm going to tell you just like this. James Harden's a heck of a player. But there ain't no way on God's green earth that Michael Jordan would ever have a game in a postseason series against arguably the best player in the league, against the biggest, most high profile team in the league, and Mike would put up a 2-for-11 game. If James Harden didn't go to the line 20 and shoot 20 free throws tonight, there's no way in the world he comes up with 21 points. There's just no way. And it was come on, man. Like I said, the dude's a heck of a player. I'm not gonna take away from him. He defended today. He had 2 steals, 3 blocks, 10 assists, but 2-for-11. He's a great player, but we not talking about GOAT level status, man. We talking about somebody who is prone to having these regular man nights. I'm trying to tell y'all, if you guys were not old enough to have watched Mike play, one of the things I'll say about Mike is that Mike was probably the most automatic superstar I've ever seen in just about any sport. I'm talking about Mike was so automatic as a star. When he did not have a fantastic game, you were like truly shocked that he didn't, because he came through so consistently that when he didn't, you were like, what? He didn't? That you kind of felt like that. You kind of felt like that. And I'm telling you, man, it was cats from the 2K league. A couple other young cats are telling me, man, Michael Jordan, he wasn't scoring against the same people that James Harden is scoring against. And I'm just trying to. This is just people kind of think they didn't get a chance to watch it. And if you got a chance to watch Mike and you saw how he moved and you saw the athleticism in which he played with, that in this game, in this era, against with these rules, with not being able to touch people, and do you know how many free throws? You talking about James Harden shooting free throw? Do you know how many free throws Michael Jordan would average per game if he played today's? And people talk about 3-point shooting. Do you not realize that there was a season, 95-96 season, Mike shot over 40% from three, but the three-pointer was not as big of a part of the game then as it is now. If Mike played now, he's not an idiot. He would have made the three a major focus for himself because that's the way the game is played. And because he was an above average shooter, period, I have literally no doubt Mike could be between a 36-38% 3-point shooter, shooting 5 to 6 of them a game. He probably just would not have taken as many threes as Harden. I think Harden's taking like 12 threes a game, something crazy like that. I don't know if he would have ever taken that many, but he wouldn't have had to because he's actually a better shooter than Harden was. Now, Harden has all kinds of skill, step backs, footwork, dribble moves, all of that. He's big, he's wide. If you ever see Harden in person, if you haven't ever seen him, the first thing that's going to strike you is how wide he is. I'm telling you, this dude from shoulder to shoulder, like I'm a big guy. Okay. I'm 6'5, 269, 265 in that range. Now I am. I should be back where I was. I lost weight. I was down to like 237, but this pandemic then got a hold of a brother. But I'm 6'5, 265, somewhere in there. I'm telling you, me and James Harden about the same height, and he weighs less, but from a width standpoint, from shoulder, this is a large human being, which is one of the reasons why when he gets to the basket and when he's driving, even though he's not blazing fast, the footwork and the combination of the strength, that's why he's such a tough guard. So I'm not taking anything away from him and saying he's not a great player, because he is. But when I heard people putting him in the same category as Mike, I don't care how many points he scored. It's not the points, it's how they got the points, when they got the points, and that sort of thing. And I'm telling y'all, it ain't no comparison. So anybody saying that's out of their mind. They smoking the real dope, not the fake dope, only the real dope. So that's that. So I'm looking forward to this Sunday for a full slate of NBA games. I mean, Lakers took control of this series, though, so a full slate of NFL games. I wanted to just, if anybody didn't see the game, obviously the Lakers won 110-100. LeBron had 16, 15, and 9. He's not human. And AD had 29 points, 12 rebounds. Russell Westbrook actually had a good game, 25 points. He was shot 50% from the field. Didn't shoot too bad from 3 for 8. But both of him and Harden missed too many free throws. They missed 7 free throws combined. They end up losing the game by 10. Start to think that could have had something to do with it. And AD's a perfect 9 for 9 from the free throw line. Free throw line had a lot to do with tonight's thing, but it was mostly the rebounding, man. I mean, the Lakers doubled the Rockets up on the boards, 52-26. You lucky to stay within 10 when you get destroyed on the boards like that. That's just what they made. They're doing what they have to do to kill the whole concept that small ball works against a team that has true big bodies across the floor. So that's that. But I am looking forward to this Sunday, a full slate of NFL games. I'm, Bears at Detroit, obviously. I have interest in that. I'm covering the Patriots, so obviously I'll be paying attention to that. But I'm going to tell you, just overall, the Patriots game, I think, is the most intriguing game of the week. I don't know if you guys feel much different than that, but I think I think that as far as the NFL schedule on Sunday and even into Monday, I don't know if there's a game that has more intrigue. Who does not want to see what this Patriots offense looks like with Cam Newton? Like, I mean, it just is. I mean, I mean, for that same matter, I'm interested in seeing what Teddy Bridgewater looks like against the Las Vegas Raiders. That's an interesting game. Um, Cleveland against the Ravens is interesting. Obviously, Tom Brady going into New Orleans against Drew Brees. That's a crazy matchup of older, great quarterbacks. But I still say that game, the one that really to me is the most interesting, is Cam Newton in New England, just seeing what that's about. Miami is there. They got a ton of ex-Patriots on there. Kyle Van Noy's there. Landon Roberts is there. Ted Karras is there. They got a bunch of Brian Flores is the head coach, and he's a former coach for the Patriots. So there's just a lot of storyline there. A lot of storyline there. So I don't know if there's a game that you guys are looking forward to more than that. But I'm going to tell you um, my whole concept about the Patriots. I got some pretty bold predictions from a Patriots standpoint, and they are definitely on the optimistic side. So, but I'm going on record right now. And I'm gonna put a contingency on these predictions. This is contingent upon Cam Newton being healthy for 14 or more games. But if Cam Newton is healthy for 14 or more games in the 2020 season, he is going to win Comeback Player of the Year. He's going to be in the MVP voting. He's not going to win, but he will be in the conversation. Bill Belichick is going to win Coach of the Year again. Josh McDaniels is going to vault himself into a head coaching opportunity, his second one. And the Patriots are going to win the division with 11-5 record. They will lose. They will lose in the AFC Championship game. That is my prediction for the Patriots. I think, and I am going to get to these questions, but I did just see this one pop up from Triborough Gigolo, and you might be a little bit biased. You might be a little bit biased because you saying that the Buffalo Bills are going to win the division, which I do think the Bills have the most talent in the division. I do, just from player to player. I think they had the most talent, but Cam not being able to stay healthy, I think, has a lot to do with the style of play that he played. And I don't think he's going to continue that style. He's 31 years old. He's coming off shoulder surgery, Liz Frank injury, and he understands that he can't continue to play that way. As a matter of fact, I think he understood that before he left Carolina, but he then ended up getting the Liz Frank injury early in the season. Then he tried to play through it and all of that. But when Norv Turner was his offensive coordinator with the Panthers, he was getting the ball out of his hands better. Statistically, his completion rate was higher. And the design runs that they were doing for him, he wasn't taking as much punishment as he was early in his career. That's the Cam Newton that has to come that's the Cam Newton that has to play for the Patriots. Now, he's got to get the ball out of his hand quickly. He's got to utilize the check downs, throwing the ball to James White, throwing the ball to JJ Taylor. If JJ Taylor gets on the field, JJ Taylor, I'm telling you guys, 5'5", 190 pounds out of Arizona. He just got called up by the Patriots from their practice squad. This dude is like a little fire hydrant. He's got game. I love this kid. I love him. But the Patriots are super deep at running back with Sony Michel. Damian Harris is hurt right now, but Rex Burkhead looked great in training camp. They got tons of running backs. But JJ Taylor is that gadget kind of guy who I think can make some big plays. He reminds a lot of people of Deion Lewis. So I think that there's some weapons there. Where I'm most concerned is at the wide receiver position. First of all, Julian Edelman's already got a bad knee. He was hurt all last year. He's 34 years old. And I think, yeah, that's just worrisome to me. That just sounds like he's going to spend the entire season battling injuries or either out altogether. The biggest, most important player on the offense besides Cam Newton for the Patriots is N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry was a first-round pick in 2019. He has got to turn into a serious down-the-field threat. Y'all know Cam loves big wide receivers. He made Kelvin Benjamin look great. Devin Funches, Jericho Cotchery. He likes big wide receivers. And I think that giving him an opportunity to deal with somebody with as much talent physically as N'Keal Harry has, I think that I think that's going to pay off for him as long as N'Keal Harry can create that separation. And then the other guy who could be important is Damiere Byrd. He's the speedster in the wide receiver core. And then you got two rookie tight ends, Devin Asiasi. And, we all know how the Patriots traditionally use their tight end. So, I just, Sanu got cut though, DC. So Sanu is not even on the team anymore. Sanu was one of the last guys that they cut right before they went down to the 53-man roster. And they cut him early to try to give him an opportunity as a veteran to sign elsewhere. He hasn't signed elsewhere yet, I don't believe. So Sanu definitely, I actually was a little surprised that they let Sanu go because the receiver core is so young and in need of a veteran outside of Julian Edelman. And we already know Edelman's a little banged up. So with Cam coming in and you're running a different kind of offense, obviously, than you ran with Brady, I was a little concerned about them dumping him. And put it like this, my whole life, I haven't, if it wasn't for me covering the Patriots, I wouldn't be this head first into it. And obviously I love Cam. But I've studied this team all summer to basically prepare for my job. And so I'm definitely intrigued, but I just think overall, even beyond that, Cam Newton following Tom Brady and the offense that that is going to have to change. We're going to see the Patriots running some stuff that just most people alive have never seen them run some of the stuff that we're going to see them run. So that's going to be interesting to me. So I'm looking forward to it. I want to know, what did you guys think about the presentation today in terms of crowd noise? 17,000 people got pretty loud a couple times. But I think there's only like 2 or 3 other stadiums that are allowing fans in. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting this Sunday. So, but let's talk about some gaming here. Now, if you guys were not with me for for the stream that I did on Tuesday, when I talked about 2K, I'm setting the bar pretty high for them for 2K21 on next gen. I am of the strong belief that this game is going to create one of those moments that we saw with NBA 2K14. I really like the first time you saw 2K14, that feeling that you got like, oh my God, like this is something that I ain't never seen before. I believe that same kind of a feeling is going to get generated. That's just what I think, man. I just feel like from what I've been hearing, talking to different people, I definitely will give you thoughts on Josh Uche. He's one of my favorite young players that I've seen. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna go as comical as they did with that LeBron trailer, DC. But I'm telling you, the visual leap that I'm expecting to see, like the words that I'm hearing being used when we're talking about the way this game looks, is like people are like, oh, bruh, you ain't even trying. I'm trying to tell you, it's finna knock you out, right? And so I don't know that it'll. Here's the thing. If Dope D, if what they're saying is true and it's not an oversell, because now mind you, the details and stuff that I have heard have not been like official comments necessarily. It's just been kind of like stuff on the side. But unless they're overselling that stuff, this could actually be even better than 14. And the reason why I say that is because 14 didn't ever promise that every mode was going to be better than it was on the current gen version. I have literally heard 2K developers say that every single mode, my GM, my league, my team, play now online, neighborhood, rec, that what's happening with the neighborhood and all of that, from my understanding, there's a reason why your my player is not carrying over from my understanding. The whole joint is going to be a whole different thing. So it's not like, oh, they're gonna make you do the whole thing, the same thing over again. And yet, so this is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm hearing. Triborough, they're not putting the bubble in. I spoke to somebody specifically about that. They said that they view the bubble as a temporary situation. and they didn't want to include something in the game that they felt was going to be temporary. So that was the answer to that question. So I actually asked that exactly. DC said, I only play my league, so I hope for sure it gets better. Probably the best sports franchise mode. It is. Even though it has not changed in a while, it still is the best franchise mode out there for sports video games. But yes, is it time for it to take a jump? It is. It is. I'm gonna tell you guys, I had an idea, and I'm gonna put this out here. So I'm gonna put this out here on this stream for the first time. But at some point, that's what I really want to, Uncle Truth. Is no more like the strict archetypes the way they have it now. But I don't know why I keep going out of focus, y'all. So we can get back. Maybe that's a little bit better. But Living Legend, what's going on, bro? It's like I don't know, man. It just sounds like this to me. It sounds like we going with something completely different, and I kind of feel like developers are sitting up and they're listening to what people are saying about current gen, and they just like, because they know a lot of their efforts, I believe, went into this next gen version, and I'm quite sure they want to be able to say, but look, we got this coming, but nobody can say anything. So I don't really know actual details, but I'm just kind of getting some vibes that there's something really amazing coming. To the entire next gen experience for 2K. So I'm excited about it. Honestly, that's the next gen game that I am most excited to see. And one of the reasons about honestly, Dehan, I don't think the gameplay is going to be that much different. And I'm actually okay with that as long as they find a good place for this shot stick or this shot, just a shooting period. Because right now, I think they went all the way the wrong way, and somewhere maybe in the middle from where they started and where they are now is best. So I think honestly, current gen's gameplay is really kind of being used as a measuring stick for where they're gonna start gameplay off for next gen. That's what I believe. Um, that's what I believe. So, and I've even actually been told something to that effect. Not exactly, but it's told something to that effect that some of what they're doing now from a shooting standpoint will definitely carry over into next gen. So that's what I think is going to happen. It would only make sense. I don't expect them to change their whole entire way that gameplay works. I just don't expect that to happen. I expect them to basically build on top of that and try to maybe use some next gen tech to make certain things better. I had a conversation with Mike Wang about a couple aspects of gameplay. I've told you guys before, I don't like the fact that you just run. I put this in my review, how playing defense essentially consists of running smack dab into a player who's trying to get to the basket, which is technically a foul, but there's no mechanic in the game for you setting somebody up and stopping their progress and basically essentially giving them the option, which is sometimes a split second option, to either pull their dribble up, change direction, something to avoid the contact, right? Because if I'm a defender and I beat you to the spot, it's my spot. And if I'm set and you cause a certain level of contact, then it's a foul. You know what I mean? So it's that's just kind of the way it's supposed to be. So one of my suggestions is, if you are, this has to do with using the rumble component within a controller, but if I'm running and I'm holding turbo, that creates whatever level of power, a level of forward progress, right? So say full turbo, full sprint is 100 momentum points, and a defender sliding over in a strafe or in the lateral movement creates maybe 55 or 60 momentum points. Well, any contact that produces a collision that equates to in total more than 150 momentum points, then now that's what's called a beyond incidental contact, which then should trigger a foul. So who's the foul on? The foul on is the foul is on the last person who moved. So obviously that's like a split second kind of a thing. So, but what that accounts for is it allows you to say, well, if the defender was still, then he didn't necessarily cause the contact. So the offensive player who is moving forward into the man is what causes the contact. And if you use a rumble function in the controller, which is already in all of the controllers, you will get a certain degree of a rumble that kind of tells you this contact is excessive. This contact is going to produce a foul. You get some level of a rumble for incidental contact, but you'll be able to ultimately be able to tell by the feel of the rumble which one is going to trigger a foul. And it's a lot though. It has to train people to play the game differently, because right now we run into each other while you're dribbling and while somebody's trying to defend you, and you just literally like ride through like this, and it's like, and so literally it's like the defender has an underhook, like it's wrestling or MMA, and he's holding you and you guys are running together side by side. That's just not basketball. That's a foul. That's a foul. And I think that it'll essentially create this cat and mouse game, which is what should be in play when you're talking about a dribbler and a one-on-one defender, because I'm trying to fake you out to get an advantage to get by you, or I'm trying to fake you out to get you to move backwards so I can move. So to get you to move backwards so I can move backwards and then take an open jump shot. Whatever it is, it's just about creating an advantage. And you also can work a strength rating in there, right? So if I can create some contact that doesn't get to the point where it creates an excessive contact, I can get a bump. And so a bigger, stronger guy like a James Harden will be able to maybe sometimes be able to create a little bit of separation with little in between moves, like say him or Paul Pierce would have done, just to get space to get shots off. So it's a lot of little things, knowing your player, knowing the strengths and weaknesses of your guy. I do think they probably have to bump up the speed of lateral movement for good defenders a little bit, to make sure that you compensate for who's a good defender and who isn't. But there's got to be a better way to approach this than just simply smacking into people full sprint and there not being a foul. Because at this point right now, the only way to really draw a foul in 2K, unless you do the charge cheese, is for reaching or swatting down with a block shot. Like the whole concept of a blocking foul or a charging foul that happens, without a guy literally just standing still, just like this, those type of fouls just don't really happen, you know, and you need that in the game because it kind of sets the table. So I don't know if we'll see that in this first version of next gen 2K, but I think at some point, I know, that's something that definitely Mike and his team are looking at. But I honestly just don't think that they know how to do that at this point. What's the sweet spot to find to get that to work? But I do know that it's a part of the conversation for sure. But when I'm talking, here, let me clarify. When I say that I think the 2K on next gen is going to kind of be mind blowing, I'm talking about visuals. I'm talking about sound. I'm talking about features. I'm talking about the whole concept of what the neighborhood or whatever it is going to be called. To be honest, I don't think it's going to be called a neighborhood. I think it's going to be called like the world or the universe or something like that, because I think they're trying to expand it out, which kind of scares me, because I think it sounds like another one of those things for 2K that could be conceptually awesome, but it's too big and they mess it up for the first 5 or 6 months. I'm hoping that's not the case, but they do that. They do that. They come up with these cool, awesome, crazy ideas and they sell it to you during the hype, and you get that bad boy and it don't work for 3 months. I'm hoping that's not what they're gonna do this time, because they do that. They absolutely do that. So I am hoping that they don't do that. But far as visuals, sound, layers to most of the features, I think that you're gonna see something that's really, really impressive. I do. Um, I'm not as Ratchet and Clank world. I'm not as optimistic about Madden um next gen. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I think Madden is gonna be the exact same game as it is now, with spruced up graphics. They may have a little bit of time to throw something in there, um, for franchise mode, but it will not be nothing grand. Here's my realistic expectation for franchise mode with Madden. We ain't gonna see nothing worth nothing with franchise until Madden 22. Okay. We'll see some nice little updates that they did. And the first one ain't even coming until November. Dog, the season almost over in November. I mean, I get it because y'all didn't start taking this serious until a month and a half ago or so. So yeah, the game is pretty much already made by then. So I get it. But anybody that's expecting to see something grand happen with Madden franchise for 21, they say they're gonna have 3 updates. This first one, what they talking about doing is like cool, but it ain't no needle mover. So we'll see what happens for December, and I guess the next one will be in January, right before the Super Bowl. I mean, okay, you know what I'm saying? Honestly, you know what I would rather them do, but I know this just ain't good business maybe for them. I would rather them say, we're going to do one update for franchise mode. We understand that this is not a good, our mode is not good where it should be. But we guarantee you that for Madden 22, we going all out on franchise. I'm telling you. And you know what trips me out though about Madden is that franchise mode, if you give franchise mode fans 2 or 3 really hard, strong commitments for like you give them a hard, strong commitment for like 2 or 3 years in a row. And I'm talking about this is across the board. This is MLB The Show, this is Madden, this is 2K, this is all of the sports. If you focus on this mode for about 2 or 3 years, that whole crowd is good for like 5 to 8 years. Look at 2K's My League, right? 2K ain't added nothing super crazy to My League for maybe 4 or 5 years. Like they had some nice little here and there's, but they made it so good when they did update it. Now it's time. Don't trip. It's time. It is time for them to do something else that we can feel with My League. But I'm telling y'all, it doesn't. All they got to do is give a major focus on this joint for like 2 to 3 cycles in a row. And then they can mutt themselves to death. And franchise people gonna be like, cool, just leave us where we are with where we good. And and then let tech advance a little bit, let some franchise people sit and make enough wish lists in their head, and then we can, what I'm saying? It would be so much bigger. Do something with presentation, do something with like stuff like Living Legend is saying, with free agent logic, trade logic, progression. And that kind of stuff is harder than it sounds. That progression stuff, trying to find the right tuners to make sure that you get a varying draft classes and you get varying progressions. Like everybody doesn't get like the same progression. That kind of stuff is hard, because everybody don't want to have everybody knows across the board, in your franchise, Pat Mahomes gonna retire when he's 35. Like, you want to be able to have it where one person has a franchise going with Pat Mahomes is 43 years old, like Tom Brady. Another one, he retired when he was 31, just out of the blue. Like, what? He did what? Like, you want that kind of variance. And that kind of stuff used to exist. Like in franchise modes, it used to be there. And now it just isn't. And somebody, I wrote an article about this. I think I know his name was Lorenzo. I can't remember his last name, but he was saying, it's a shame because football games have the best franchise modes, and they do. It's only 16 games. You could play through multiple seasons, man. But Madden don't even make you want to play that many seasons because the franchise mode's so dead. Like in the draft, bro, you in the draft in Madden, and you literally can't even see who the other teams pick. They just be like, yo, pick. Just pick whoever on the screen. If you don't see them, they ain't there. I'm like, what? I can't even look and see who the Seahawks picked. Like, what is that about? Free agency like has nothing. Like it ain't got nothing, man. Like I mean, come on, bro. Like I'm just hoping that they take a step forward with this. But I'm gonna be honest, if they do something minor to upgrade Madden 21's franchise mode and then punch us in the face with something completely real for Madden 22 from a franchise standpoint, I would actually be happy. Because to me, I can't, I'm not gonna persecute EA for everything they haven't done with franchise mode over all these years. I feel like this year was like an accountability year, right? We come in here and everybody has said, "Hey, check it out. We hate this. Y'all hear us. These hashtags are telling you you hear us. You have acknowledged to the franchise community that you heard us. Okay. You're saying that us as a consumer base, as this particular demo of your customer demo is important enough for you to update and for you to upgrade. You have made specific commitments to improve this part of your game. You said you're going to have 3 updates for this one, and you're going to make sure that it's going to be a focus moving forward. And Madden 22's franchise mode was going to be significantly better than Madden 21's. You found out early enough before even going into major production for Madden 22. So there's no reason that franchise mode in Madden 22 shouldn't be a primary focus based off of what you have said. So in my opinion, it's fair as a consumer to say, I'm going to give you until Madden 22. And then if I don't like it, I'm just going to be like, I'm done, because y'all are not showing that you care about my money. That's literally, to me, how it should go. You know, people jumping up talking about drop EA, NFL dropped EA. To me, I just don't find that to be realistic. You know, it's a contract there, man. 2026. This joint is, they locked into 2026. So you can say that all you want, it ain't gonna happen. You know, in the monopoly, unless there's some clause in that contract that allows them to get out, it ain't happening. So this is where we are. Right. This is where we are. I'm gonna tell y'all, I wrote an article today about the Madden alternatives. Doug Flutie, Maximum Football and Access Football. I reviewed Doug Flutie last year. The dude, the main developer for the game, got so mad at me because I didn't like the game. I said that it just wasn't playable visually. It just wasn't on par. It wasn't even good enough for me to accept, even with Madden's franchise mediocrity. I just couldn't take that far of a step back from a visual standpoint, just for the sake of having way more customization options. The gameplay wasn't even better. It was just different than Madden. You know, the guys seem like they glide on ice across the floor. You know, I, I'm I just I can't, like, some people are like, some people acting like, you know, anything that ain't Madden is okay. Come on, man. No. If Madden is still the best football game out, y'all. As bad as flawed as it is, it's still the best football game out. Now, I have not played Doug Flutie Maximum Football 2020, and it definitely does look a little bit better. But when I look at the animations and stuff, man, you mean to tell me you would literally, without trying to make your own personal statement towards EA, you're going to tell me you would literally rather play that game than Madden? There's no way, man. You know, there's no way, man. Come on, bro. There ain't no way. There ain't no way. And Access Football is way even worse than Doug Flutie. Like, Doug Flutie, I think is Maximum Football is actually playable. Access Football does not look playable. Like, it looked like a PS2 generation game or something. No, not that bad, but yeah, no, it ain't. It's not there. So that's what it is, man. And I want to see what 2K is going to do, because obviously we know that 2K's football game is really the best alternative for anybody from Madden, but we don't know what it's going to be. We don't know what defines a simulation. So I know that visually it'll be able to compete with Madden because 2K has the resources to make it that way. But I is 2K Park gonna really do something for that's not 2K Park ain't gonna do nothing for franchise fans. It's not. That does not give you anything. That does not give you another option. Does not give you an alternative because that's not what you really want. So they gotta have something that does that. If without that, we just gonna be popped. Oh, but let's talk about MLB The Show. I'm gonna tell you, I'm super hyped for that one. And I think I mentioned this on the stream on Tuesday. I'm super hyped for that one because they have a long time to develop this game on next gen. They get an opportunity to see what goes down with 2K's next gen offering, with Maddens, with FIFA's. They get to watch all of that, and they don't have to bring out their first next gen game until March or April, y'all. And I love Sony, and I love what they do with the show. I love Sony San Diego Studios. And I'm telling you, if them suckers come through with upscale graphics and create a ballpark and everything else is exactly as it is in the show right now, we gonna have a new king of sports video games, in my opinion. Like, they gonna take over to me. They gonna take over as the number one sports video game. And that's unless, I mean, like I said, I do expect for 2K to come hard. But if the show does all of that and the gameplay doesn't suffer, man, it's gonna be one. It's gonna be one, man. It is gonna be a serious situation out there. So I'm gonna jump in here and look at some of these questions that I might have missed and see if I can answer some stuff. Let's see. I appreciate you, Jordan Lattimore. Bron Colin says he's gonna answer his question and go. He says, why is MLB The Show the only game that carries over your save data for franchise or season modes? I do not know, man. I feel like it's a philosophical thing with some of these other companies. I feel like they don't think that that's important, or either they think that it's important, but they are scared that I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense to me, honestly, because in my opinion, if you allow people to carry saves over, you allow, and I know it's not a huge demographic, but to me, that's a vested customer, right? I might have started this roster thing with 2K18, and I want to keep my little experience going through 18, through 19, through 20, through 21. And to me, you got some people who will look at the game and go, well, didn't enough of it change for me to buy the new one? So I'm gonna stay with this old one. But if you told them that buying the new one, you still get to carry over everything that you was doing to this new one, but then yeah, you get these other perks too. To me, that's more of an incentive for them to buy it. And I think it actually helps MLB The Show in that way. But for whatever reason, 2K and Madden don't see it that way. That's something that I really hope that Madden takes into consideration with their franchise updates, because I think that would be huge for people. So there are so many people who do huge Madden connected franchises or franchise modes, online ones every year. Can you imagine if you had a group of guys and girls who were in like their sixth and seventh season doing a Madden online franchise league, and they're on their second or third version of Madden that they transferred it over to? That would be insane, man. People would start doing it like it was real, like fantasy football and those keeper leagues where you get to keep certain players that you wanted to keep from the previous season. I mean, it would be just stupid dope. So I just think a lot of times, man, a lot of these decisions are being made by people who are not gamers. So all of this stuff that we think is a no-brainer and would be so fun and cool, it doesn't register like that for some of the decision makers because they ain't gamers like us. So, and that's just the way it is. Um, Kevin Amber G says, you're judging it based off a game against a very bad team. The Texans are significantly worse than the last year. Chiefs are great, but tonight show nothing. I hear you. I don't know. Do we know what the Texans are at this point? I don't know that we know. I know they were down corners. So that definitely is a thing. But I mean, I'm not judging it based off a game against bad team. We're talking about the Super Bowl champions, bro. I mean, they just won the Super Bowl earlier this year. And essentially, they didn't downgrade at any position. The running back position seems to be improved. They got the same receivers back with Mecole Hardman actually having a year to get better. I mean, I don't think what I was saying was based just on today. I think we're talking about a team that won the Super Bowl and seems to have gotten better based off of the performance tonight for sure, and then just based off of preseason assessment of their roster. So it wasn't based purely on tonight. It would be different if we were talking about a team that was 6-10 last year, and then they came out and they did this to the Texans. That would be different because we have no frame of reference to think that they have gotten this good. This team won the Super Bowl last year, and they came out today in the season opener and smashed the Texans. I don't know. I don't think I'm jumping to too many conclusions or not a completely, non-understandable in conclusion. So Andrew says waiting on the Eagles and Ravens this weekend. That should be a good game for sure. Lamar getting out there is always going to be exciting. Triborough Gigolo, I appreciate you, man. Harden is overrated, I do believe. Some people say Harden is the greatest offensive player of all time, and I disagree with that. Lyric Smith, I would disagree with that. I think he's in the conversation, but he's not a better offensive player than Mike. He's not a better offensive player than Kevin Durant. And I don't actually even believe he's a better offensive player than Kobe either. I think all three of those guys, from a pure offensive standpoint, I would take over Harden. A lot of the reason I would take those guys over Harden is because I just have seen from their careers that in clutch situations, they are that dude. Harden has not proven to be that dude in a clutch situations. So how can a guy whose clutchness be doubted and has been doubted ever since he was a rookie? How can somebody whose clutchness has been doubted be the greatest offensive player of all time? That's just completely impossible. So no way. Classic says Harden don't shoot mid-range, and that's the most important shot in the playoffs. Yeah, Harden is either all the way to the cup or 50 million miles away from the basket. Is one of the two. Stephen Rainey says blasphemy at its finest. Harden never been close to MJ. You are right. Triborough says those kids didn't grow up in the Jordan era. They did not. Larry Smith says this was a make or break game. It was. I think they are done. There's no way in the world they're gonna beat the Lakers 3 times in a row. I appreciate you. Spatial Jones, what's going on, baby? Lakers versus the Clippers in the semis. Wait a minute, it won't be the semis. That'll be the Western Conference Finals. They in the semis now. Yeah, they'll be in the semi. That'll be the Western Conference Finals because it's down to it's not even 8 teams anymore because the Heat already beat the Bucks. And my mind is and then the Raptors and the Celtics are going deeper. So those they're in the conference semis now, unless you're talking about the NBA semis. I think that might be what you're talking about. D'Antonio about to get fired, maybe again. He might be. DC cracked me up. He said Rockets got he probably didn't mean it like this, but it's pretty funny. He said Rockets got a clean house. I think an unclean Daniel house might have had a reason something to do with why they lost. My man trying to get the doggone female COVID-19 lady. Oh my God, bro. Man, that bubble tough on you, ain't it? That bubble tough, boy. They trying to holler at the doggone medical testing people. It is crazy. Taylor Malone said that's what happened when you got a 6'5" center. Yeah, they got away with it from a skill standpoint, and all these people trying to play positionless basketball. But I'm trying to tell you, man, you can't go that hard that way. You got to have somebody with some level of size and some sort of a rebounding threat in there, and some sort of a structure to the basket in some way. Now I can see 4 out, 1 in, but just the complete honestly, y'all, nobody's winning with 5 out. People think that the Golden State Warriors is playing 5 out. They were never playing 5 out, not complete 5 out. The Rockets and the Bucks tried to play complete 5 out, and they haven't won. Neither of those teams have won. So, yeah, you got to have some level of a big man in there. Triborough Gigolo, how do you feel the Giants will do this season? Ha, Daniel Jones does not impress me as a true leader. I think they have to lean heavily on the run game. I would hope Saquon Barkley stays healthy this year. I do think the defense is a nice young up and coming group. I like Joe Judge as a coach. I almost said manager, as a coach. Um, and like to see what he's able to do. Is he going to? I mean, a lot of the Belichick disciple guys haven't really been able to find their thing, you know. So we'll see what happens. I like him, but you know, a lot of it's gonna have to do with how well the team takes to Judge. What kind of development do we see from Daniel Jones? Can Saquon Barkley stay healthy? They need a wide receiver to step up and to be an actual threat. And it's, you know, I feel like Odell Beckham Jr. that moving him has been bad for both sides. I don't think that it helped his career, and I don't think that the Giants have found anybody that can really take his place. Golden Tate stays hurt, so you can't, you know, he's questionable for tomorrow. Sterling Shepard, I don't think is a star type guy. We'll have to see what's going on with Darius Slayton. I think he's still too young to know. I mean, he had 48 receptions last year, so he had a decent season, 8 touchdowns, but they need a number one guy to emerge. And I think they don't have that. I think they got a bunch of number threes. And I think Golden Tate is a number two on a good team, but he's not healthy and he's 32 years old. So, yeah, I just don't think that they can score enough points to be a real factor in the NFC East. I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but that's my take. Um, let's see. Cam throwing options is set up for failure. Yeah, it's not a lot over there. Not a lot over there from a passing standpoint, but we'll see. Let's see. Jamal, you know what? It's tripped out, man. I'm gonna tell you, it's one thing covering the Patriots is tripped out is that the amount of racism in the comment section for the Patriots, like y'all, the Black Patriot fans, how is it? I really want to know in Boston and in that area, just in that Massachusetts, in throughout Massachusetts, how is it like being a Black Patriots fan? Like because from the outside looking in when you're just looking at I'm literally writing 100 articles a month, and that's almost on the Patriots. And I'm telling you, man, the comments be so ratchet. It's sometimes it can be depressing sometimes. You be like, man, it's this kind of people in the world, man. You know, it's out here. You know, so I'm asking that question to you guys. If you guys are, you know, if Lurking, if you still in there, Jamal Harris, if you're still in here, I want to know, you know. DC said Josh Allen needs a big year. He does. He has to improve his accuracy for sure. He got the biggest arm in the NFL probably, and he's a fantastic athlete. But yes, the accuracy has to improve. Curious George said the Texans going to start 0-3. They might. They got the Ravens next week. Looking a little tough. Let's see. Thoughts on Josh Uche. Jamal Harris wanted to know that. I love Uche. You know who Uche reminds me a little bit of as a pass rusher? He reminds me a little bit of Elvis Dumerville as a pass rusher, but he can do more than that. He's gonna play that same role that Kyle Van Noy played last year, as that they call it the move linebacker. And his versatility and speed and athleticism is really like that's what really is drawing a lot of attention to people. I've heard people, I think it was Peter King, predicted that Josh Uche was going to be the defensive rookie of the year. I think he is going to have a really good season as long as he stays healthy. We'll see. But I like Josh Uche a lot. Um, they also have Anthony Jennings, who is, I think, his role, which is this is a tough one for him because Dante Hightower is opted out for COVID-19. The Patriots had 8 people to opt out for COVID-19. That's by far the most in the NFL. But I think that Jennings ends up playing a lot of that role that Hightower played, which is that's a lot of responsibility. Hightower was arguably the most important game on the defense, and now you might be dumping that to a rookie or Jawan Bentley, one of the two. But I think you're going to see Jennings get some of that responsibility on him as well. Go DC, thinking of the past 14. Yeah, Lyric 2K14 had my GM, but not my league. Yeah. Trapper said, yeah, no, they won't have a bubble. Let's see. Whole new my career story. You know what I really hope, Dime Dropper? I hope that they separate them. I said this in the last stream. I want to see them just do a story separate by itself. You take your player, they give you whatever storyline, they guide it however they want to guide it, and you complete it. And once you complete it, you get a VC bonus out of it. It sets your player up to start, and then you take that guy into your regular grind and all that kind of stuff. If you want to continue his NBA career and play, play NBA games and go through a whole thing without a story, you can. Or if you want to just do it in the park, you can. Whichever one you want to do. I think that would be better instead of forcing somebody to experience a story just to grind their player up. So I don't like that. Uncle True said no more archetypes. I said on the last stream, I would rather the arcs be based on actual NBA players. I'm trying to be the Kobe Bryant arc. I'm trying to be the Michael Jordan arc. I'm trying to be the Giannis arc. I'm trying to be the Kevin Durant arc. I'm trying to be the LeBron arc. I'm trying to be Shaq arc. Whatever it is, and you're literally trying to reach that player's max potential. And that should be what the grind is, in my opinion. See, the only thing I really want is a rookie class is to have more customization and tattoos. I want that bad too, DC. I want more than that, but I do want rookie class. I want your creative players, offline creative players, period, to be able to add tattoos. I would love to be able to use an image uploader for their faces. That would be good for legends and for rookies. And I would like more hairstyles. So those are my biggest things for the creative player suite. If they had that, I think we'd be in really good shape. I wish they would allow us to do rule change in my league before the season starts. Yeah, that is kind of bad, right? You can't do it before the season starts. I don't even think you could do it this year before. You can do some rule changes, but not all of them. Like you can kind of make it like a college basketball thing. Before you start, I think you can make the shot clock 35 seconds. You can make it where you foul out with 5 fouls. You can change it from a jump ball to possession arrow. So some of that stuff you can do. I really wish you could adjust the 3-point line. I talked to Eric Benish about that one year, and he said they tried to do it to try to make like a 4-point line just as a possible rule change. But he said that it created so much of a problem with the AI because you have to basically have all the players change the way that they act on the court because certain cuts and certain sets are set up to be run at or around the 3-point line. Well, now if you're pulling this out, changing where the 3-point line is, or now you're adding a 4-point line, now players have to start running plays and reacting to that. And that just is like a whole separate set of AI, which would be a huge undertaking. So they haven't been able to do that yet. Uncle True said he needs less delay online. Yeah, I think that's across the board with 2K. Brock without the K. What's going on, man? He said he bought the Mamba edition. Corey said he think gameplay gonna be totally different. I don't. I don't think it's gonna be totally different. I think it's gonna be very much like what you're playing on current gen. Uncle True says I want online 2K to feel like offline 2K on next gen. I don't know. I don't know. Since depends on what the tech is. Depends on what the tech is, but I think that latency is a thing. Michael Cheston said, could they possibly add a 1-minute shoot around before quick games, my league games, etc.? Mike, I think that would be really cool. I like mini games in sports games that matter, right? That was one of the really cool, just awesome things about Madden's like training camp thing and the practice with throwing the ball to the dummies and stuff like that. I thought that was real awesome, man. If you did stuff like that, like as a position battle thing, because they used to have position battles back in the day on Madden. If you had two people who were close in overall rating, they would announce that this person's in a position battle, and whoever performed the best in preseason, that was when preseason actually mattered, they would get like a little bit of an attribute bump, and then they would be the starter. So I like little stuff like that. I think is great, but we'll see if it gets in there. Jamal says he's hyped for next gen my career. I think park affiliations will come back. Maybe. Steve Rainey says, I really hope they allow us to have more freedom to edit players' tattoos, hair, shoes. Definitely. Next gen gameplay wise, would love to be able to cut off. Yep, we talked about that. Triborough Gigolo says, I used to love the part of NBA Live, customizing players' looks. Yeah, you know what I want them to take from NBA Live is their halftime show concept. I think Live had the best halftime show with the top plays, the keys to something. It wasn't even all of that crazy or whatever, right? It was just, it made sense. It was lined up, and you felt like you actually saw the story of the first half. And that's all that the halftime show is supposed to do. The halftime show is supposed to be a summary of what happened in the first half. Halftime show in 2K is not that. It's just some loose, weird looking comments that don't have nothing to do with Shaq and them be talking about. And we ain't even gonna talk about halftime show in Madden. That is just ridiculous. And then Brandon Galton got the nerve to be talking about some, if you skip it, oh, this is a tough crowd here. Ain't no tough crowd. Y'all ain't doing nothing on franchise, on halftime show. Why would I watch it? It's crazy. Dime Dropper says, I hope you bring back player faces, tattoos, and shoes for next gen. I will, bro. Something to that effect will be back. So you can bet on that. Lyric Smith says, I would also love if we could edit official NBA jerseys in my league. I mean, to a degree you can. It just takes a lot. You got to like recreate the whole jersey. But you can do it. But yeah, it takes a lot. I would love to actually just see the jersey I'm switching to on the pregame screen. Was broken all last 2K. Definitely like the Rumble concept. Let's see. D Hen says, do I think that's an EA thing? FIFA 2. I'm not sure what you meant. You got tell me what we were talking about at that point. Madden 12 was the last franchise mode that I actually played a lot of. Madden 12 was the last probably good franchise mode, to be honest. So that doesn't surprise me. They could do something as simple as change the free agent logic. You were talking about improving franchise mode. They should take heat from 2K. They have sliders to sway free agency from money only to other determining factors. That is definitely an underrated feature in my league. DC says they should have just made another NFL Street. I would play that more over the yard. A lot of people want NFL Street. A lot of people want NBA Street. I don't know why they haven't done that. To me, that just like is so stupid. There's a bunch of people that would buy NBA Street just off GP just because. So I don't know why they haven't done that. Kind of silly to me. DC says something I really need is there for there to be jersey retirement ceremonies and real banners. DC, that would be so dope that if a dude retired, they actually did a little ceremony, and like at some point, like the first home game, you'd be like jersey retirements, and maybe like didn't even tell me which one is going to be retired. So when I go into the game, all I see is that it's going to be jersey retirement. So I know I need to watch that one. And then at the beginning of the game, they have that would be fire, bro. That would be ridiculous. And then have the banners like hang. That would be dope. Living Legend said, one thing about next gen I'm hoping happens with 2K, they couldn't add in the mentor system for online modes of current gen. Hope it makes it on next gen. That mentor thing was dope. That concept was fire. But yeah, a lot of that stuff they just didn't do on online. I just want Kobe Bryant for next gen. I'm tired of this potato head Brian. Look what we got. Yeah, I guarantee you, I know that for a fact. I've been told that the Kobe Bryant render for next gen is stupid good. That's what I've been told. So I think you can bet on that. And I even said last stream, I believe that his render should be the one that they show next when they start showing next gen stuff. So we'll see. Let's see. Living Legend said with Madden, they even used to have more detail about the rookies when scouting that they've stripped away from work for whatever reason. Yeah, man. Like I was looking on Operation Sports, and there was a cat, I can't remember who it was, but he did a fictional draft for NBA 2K. And my man had a little paragraph written for like every player. And it was so dope because as you read through it, you're like, oh, you start feeling like you get a picture in your head of how the person looks, and don't let them, they actually created them. It's like, oh man, yeah, I see. And you start seeing, and that stuff is big in a franchise mode. Just a paragraph that says this about this person. And we're talking about a paragraph, right? Do you know how many different paragraphs they could just come up with and store in a game? They could literally get somebody to write 5,000 different paragraph length bios and it would literally be like almost like you never saw the same. So once that bio gets used, you never see it again. It's taken out of the memory for your particular save on my league or in Madden franchise. That stuff would be crazy because each person would be unique. And it's only a paragraph. It's just text, but you're giving me something that I remember. This dude, Montez Stewart, whoever, I just made that up. But Montez Stewart, thought he would never play basketball again. His freshman year in high school, he was hit by a car, broke a bone in his left leg. Doctor said he wouldn't play anymore, but he sat out his sophomore and half of his junior year. And by the end of his junior year in high school, he was back playing. He's back playing at a high level. He was the number 5 pick out of Ohio, number 5 prospect out of Ohio. He ended up going to Ohio State. He did 2 years at Ohio. He played 2 years at Ohio State, and now he's in the NBA draft. I tell you something like that about Montez Stewart in just a paragraph. Now, when you're about to draft Montez Stewart, you're like, yeah, this is the dude with the broken leg. And now you're making your own stories up in your head. It just take a paragraph of text, bro. You ain't got to show a whole video breakdown. And this is Montez as the car approached him. You don't need to do that. Just give a paragraph, bro, and it'll be decent. So I noticed that when my man did that, it really did kind of enhance something about his fictional draft. Let's see. Andrew said just the ability to hide coordinators in Madden franchise mode. Come on, man. They had that. They had players retire. I remember playing what was it, like Madden 05? I was playing a franchise mode, one of the most fun I ever had playing a football franchise mode. I was controlling the Ravens because I was a Ray Lewis fanatic, right? I was controlling the Ravens, and Ray Lewis retired. And then 2 years later, he was defensive coordinator. And I remember at the time, back in the day, you didn't have as much information about games as we have now. So when it happened, it was a surprise. It was like, Ray Lewis is defensive coordinator. And it like hyped me up to keep playing more of that particular thing. It was dope. And then ultimately, I was trying to see if he would ever get promoted to be a head coach. And it's nothing but text, man. They just moving pictures around. There's a little algorithm in the back that has a probability and a randomizing kind of a concept to it. But it's just these little things that they give you that allow you to just create your own stories and your own experience and immersion in the fantasy, in the franchise mode. And I know it doesn't take that much. It just takes to think about it and say, yeah, that would be dope. Because it's not like we're not talking about video. We're not talking about a mocapping. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about literally stuff that manifests itself in text. And that stuff would be good. Now, there is something that I want in franchise modes that is about audio. And I mentioned this to someone on the audio team with 2K. But when you have a draft class, right? Guys come in, and this is about adding like identity to players. Say, for instance, I got a 6'7", 185-pound shooting guard, small forward, who is a fantastic 3-point shooter. Now, his rating is only like a 71 right now, but he's at like an 85, 3, whatever, right? Now, not picture the guy I'm saying, 6'7", 185 pounds, pretty skinny, right? 3-point shooter. A lot of people would think, oh, Reggie Miller. What if in the game you had these different profiles of players? It's all backing in stuff. But if a player comes in and he's within this height range, this weight range, and he has this amount of a 3-point rating, or he has this level of an athleticism, or if he has this level of a dunk rating, he has this dribble rating, it triggers something that then makes the announcer say, hey, you know what? Greg Anthony says, you know what, guys, don't call me crazy. But something about when I look at this guy, Montez Stewart, he reminds me so much of Reggie Miller. I know that's high comparison, but look at his height, look at his weight, look at the 3-point skill set. Imagine if you was playing a franchise mode game and you heard the commentator say something like that about a creative player that you either created or that the system created. The level of immersion and the moments that kind of stuff creates that's the whole point of franchise mode. That's what it is. Let's see what else we got here. Really needs presentation updates that makes it feel more dynamic, like players shaking hands in the draft. It's just a draft screen. Yeah, I think I'm gonna tell you, to be honest, every sports game just about needs to up the ante when it comes to their draft presentation. Nobody makes the draft feel like as big of a deal as it should be. Not the NBA, not 2K's draft. 2K's draft is much better. They show the players stuff on the screen and then they show the little Twitter stuff. That's much better than what Madden does. Madden just be like, they on your team. Trust me, bro. Go on about your business, bro. You know what I mean? It's just bad. And MLB The Show definitely, I mean, to be honest, baseball has the least spectacular draft to watch. But I mean, we playing MLB The Show, make the draft a big deal because this is what it is. So, let's see. We also hold us over as well. He said, I agree, a little extras to go in a long way. Alternatives aren't real alternatives for Madden. You are correct. Said, man, did you see Snoop Dogg in there? My God, they did him dirty. I heard him in there saying stuff, and people was getting all on his back. They were like, I think Gold Glover 9. Gold Glover has a really cool channel, but we very rarely agree when we are on Twitter. We never agree, like ever. I love his channel, but me and that dude never agree about anything. But he was right about this. But I mean, he was being a little hard on Snoop. Snoop just there to do a job. But Snoop says, see, you got to know a lot about football to be good at Madden. Okay, yeah. Clearly, Snoop has not been on Twitter lately because that is not a comment anybody would have made and not expected to get some kind of stuff for it. So when is the show coming to Xbox? It's supposed to be there this year coming up. So just think about how big of a year this could be for Sony. If they come out with a killer next gen version, it's going to be the first year that it could be on Nintendo, Xbox, and PC. The show on PC with mods. Oh my God. Stupid crazy. Stupid. Post grad update say he saw me on my GM. Yeah, I wish I got paid for that, but I didn't. But yeah, it's cool to be in the game. Dovey says, what do you think about the possibility of female mod players in 2K and what they could do for the WNBA as a whole on next gen? Female mod players, I almost want to guarantee you that will be in 2K on next gen. You can just about bet that. I mean, without me knowing and somebody giving me a piece of paper that said, look, it's in here and here's the bullet points, I'm about as positive about that as I can be without absolutely knowing. So you better just pretty much probably chalk that joint up. I'm about as sure as I can be. I just don't think they can do it. I just don't think they can go anymore. They've pushed the expansion of the WNBA concept and female involvement in the game as far as they can push it without doing this. This is the only other step, the only not logical next step, I should say. They got to do it. To me, they got to do it. They got to do it. DC cracking on Bill O'Brien replacing DeAndre Hopkins with Brandon Cooks. Honestly, not having DeAndre Hopkins didn't help them today, but they lost this game today because they couldn't stop the Chiefs. They just couldn't. They had no answer for the run game on the inside, and they just got blown off the ball at the line of scrimmage. So DeAndre Hopkins wasn't going to help that, but they didn't help at all. Kawhi's a mid-range sniper. Yes, he is. Andrew says adding storylines and franchise somehow would be cool too. Like a player demands to back clean up or top the order and rating goes down if not. Yeah, that's pretty hot. That's pretty hot for base, because that's one thing about the baseball franchise modes. We don't see a lot of that extra stuff in there at all, and that would be kind of cool. Full owner mode, controlling prices, concessions, parking, etc. for the show. They had something like that, remember, in MVP baseball, and it was awesome. I would love to see. I mean, MVP baseball had created ballpark, which is to me the single biggest feature that they're missing. So I would love to see that back. My man's house was just trying to get a house call. Oh, he was trying. Yeah, he sure was. The grilled cheese says, don't forget about my boy Brian Flores for sure. Ex-Patriots coach. Jordan Lattimore would be really dope if my career like Madden, having a basic normal player without story and then narrative. Yes, without story, yeah, and then the narrative version of the mode. Like that's I mean, that's how the show is. The show doesn't have like a big elaborate story, but people still love Road to the Show. A lot of people want something a little bit more, whatever. But you know, Jamal Harris said, to be honest, I don't interact with other fans much, if all, on social media, but in person, I have a few friends that are fellow Patriots fans, both black and white, and it's no problem. We just keep it respectful. Man, I'm telling you, man, I'm glad you're having that experience, because as a writer writing some of this stuff, especially talking about Cam, oh my God, these people coming out the woodwork, man. It ain't nice. Some of them ain't nice. Taylor Malone says, can't wait for next year's roster. 2K feels like the lockout season, right? Obviously, you cannot discuss details, but have rumors about 2K21 next gen been circulating around industry circles yet, or is everything still hush hush? Everything is still mostly hush hush, Ali, to be honest. Like, I haven't had really anything confirmed. What I'm telling y'all today is just my feelings and my hunches and my instincts from being around this company for so long. I've been covering 2K for about 11 years. So I've gotten to know a lot of people. I've gotten a good feel for just kind of like when stuff is happening with them, just being around the organization for a while. And I've been playing the game since its inception, since September 9th, 1999. So all of that, this is just what I feel based off of that. And just like, I have heard people talk about next gen, and I see the way they're talking about it, and I'm kind of reading between the lines. And yeah, that's what I'm saying is coming from. Jamal says, yeah, man, I think Josh Uche is next up, especially since he'll get more than his fair share of reps due to all the opt-outs. You are correct. Dr. Funk says, I think NCAA used to let you shoot around before the game. They did. Cat, I liked it, but NCAA and live, I believe. I want to say, no, maybe. Yeah, I think it was live too. I think it was live. And you know what? It used to let you do it in my career. I think they let you do it in my career, and they used to let you do it in NCAA. Jordan Lattimore says, what do you think of the chances of AD going to Chicago this offseason sometime in the near future? Man, I would love it. I'm just so used to people using the Bulls as just somebody to throw something out there with. Dwayne Wade, LeBron, and Chris Bosh did it. Tracy McGrady did it. And people just they never say yes. The top flight free agents just never say yes to us. So I'm just used to that. I have told people over and over again, man, the Bulls' path to legitimacy is not free agency. It's not. It is always and has always been the draft and the timely trade that pushes them over. If you look back in history at all of the great Bulls teams, look at how those nucleuses were assembled. The Jordan Bulls, Michael Jordan was a number 3 pick overall in the draft. Scottie Pippen was a draft day trade. So you could say they drafted him because they moved up. They drafted Odin Polynice and traded with the Seattle Supersonics, who drafted Pippen, but they had the Sonics draft Pippen for them. Horace Grant was the 11th pick overall, I believe, out of Clemson. So then they make the trade to send Charles Oakley to the Knicks to get Bill Cartwright. John Paxson was already on the team. That's the nucleus of that team, built almost entirely through the draft, with that one trade to get Bill Cartwright to add that inside presence that they need. You look at the Derrick Rose Bulls when we went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Derrick Rose was drafted. Luol Deng was drafted. Joakim Noah was drafted. And Carlos Boozer was the only free agent acquisition, and he wasn't our number one target. The number one target was Bosh, LeBron, and them. They said no. Amari Stoudemire had already went to the Knicks, so the Bulls settled for Carlos Boozer. Now, I'm not a Boozer hater like a lot of Bulls people are. Boozer had good years here. Boozer was never anything different than what he was anywhere else. Boozer was never a phenomenal defensive player. He rebounded and he scored, and that's what he did with the Bulls. So I never had that issue with him like a lot of people did. I didn't automatically expect Carlos Boozer to turn into Wes Unseld on the defensive side of the ball. I never did. So he did what, to me, he had always done. But he wasn't really the piece that the Bulls really needed. Now, he would have been fine if we had a shooting guard that could actually play in the NBA and not Keith Bogans. But my whole point is, if you look at whenever the Bulls have been successful, it's always been through the draft, one little trade here or there, or a secondary free agent signing. We don't ever get our core from free agency. It just doesn't work. Carl Mosley says 2K needs to patch current gen. I'm not hyped, to be honest. They already been doing a lot of stuff. I think you are going to see a patch sometime very soon. I'm hearing that this next update is going to add ankle breakers back in, because ankle breakers wasn't even in. I don't even know if they did that on purpose or not, but it's not. And I think there's going to be another tweak to the shooting to turn it back towards the where it was at the beginning, but I don't know that for a fact. Nigel said, "What's up, Brian? Just curious if you heard anything about live. Any guess on how soon they can or want to get things out? Should we even care at this point?" I don't know, man. I think live probably. I could see live coming out August of 2021. I could see that. They got a long time to work on it. Long time to work on it. I could definitely see that. I do believe it should be a free to play game. And I'm not saying it should be a free to play game because it ain't worth no money. Don't spend no money on that. I just think it's a good marketing strategy for them. You come out as a free to play game, have it only be like park like first, and you try to take that crowd. And you still have your microtransactions, but you don't have to have that. You can play it just as it is. But Fortnite and all those other games are proof people will buy that cosmetic stuff, the stuff that don't have nothing to do with upgrading their player. A lot of people will buy a headband, tattoos, they'll buy, but just don't make them have to have it just to play the game or just to upgrade. If the gameplay is good enough and it has that part concept, people gonna play that. They're gonna play it. Now, it needs to be next gen, because by this time we'll be talking about 2K going into their second year on next gen, having already blown people's minds this year. So it's gonna be tough for sure. But I think that's the smartest route for them to go. And then you build the full NBA game back layer by layer. So I would say, like, the next thing I would do after that is I put in a franchise mode. So you got park, and then you go franchise mode. And then I would just let it be that, or play now online mode, just that, and you just build it a layer at a time. And I would make it a live service. So it wouldn't be like an annual release. I would have live be my guinea pig for the first live service game for EA. And that's just the way I would do it. I think that's just the smartest way to rebuild it. Ishmaela Trayor, I hope I said that right. The simplest ask we need is sneaker downloader so everyone can have the same shoes for Legends. Yeah, that's one of them things, man. When you start making rosters, you start seeing that. You be like, man, I just downloaded Joe Charles Barkley, but I gotta go, it didn't give me the same shoes, especially if you created the shoes, even though I think the Barkleys are in the game. But Max Zale Blackwell said, yeah, NCAA had the height control mini game. I think I was young, so I don't remember exactly, but I always thought that was dope. Yes, it was. Terry Fuller says, where are they going to fix? When are they going to fix create a roster? The roster picker and player DNA. It says unable to retrieve. This happened on all consoles. It is happening. They are aware of it. I spoke to someone about it, and they said that they are working through a few issues, and that they have that one on their list. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think it was at the top, but that was like a week or so ago. So I would not be surprised if that was a part of this next patch or next update that's coming, or I should say the first update that's coming. Because that the shot thing was a hot fix. So it wasn't like an actual patch. We haven't seen our first patch yet because the game has only technically been out for 1 week. So we haven't seen our first patch yet. So if it's not in that first patch, then I would get a little bit more worried. But I do understand that's a big part of what I do too. So yeah. You got PS5 release news predictions. I believe that the PS5 is going to come out either November 3rd or November 10th. I don't think that they will drop it after. But maybe they already had their date, and Xbox got a hold of it and they jumped to November 10th to get in front of them. Either way, between either November 3rd, 10th, or 17th is, I'd say, no later than the 17th. Ontario Green, for next gen, I hope they add what year a player was drafted in the vital section of create a player. This was a feature in Dreamcast PS2 versions. Yeah, that's one of those things. It's kind of a small thing when you're doing roster creation, but it does come in kind of handy. Ali says, why do you think next gen 2K will be similar to current? I'm sure I read they started from scratch offline and offload current gen development to another company. Not another company. They did it with Visual Concepts South, but there was some involvement from the current studio. But I think the gameplay engine is one of the things that I think is going to transfer over. I think the other stuff is kind of it's. I do believe the game is rebuilt, but I don't think they threw everything from a gameplay standpoint out. I just don't think they would have done. That's a lot. I just don't think they would do that. But we'll see. I feel it's going to be the same as well. They won't have street games because it won't sell. They're gonna have street games for sure. I think NBA Street would definitely sell. Drew said he'll buy out NBA Ballers. Dr. Funk says Madden needs to let retired players coach again. Yep, we was talking about that. Ismail says they should definitely make NBA Street Volume 2 remastered with that would be dope. Remastered with current players, that'll be fire. Good defensive logic. Honestly, man, I don't know if you're talking about 2K or Madden, but I think the offensive logic, well, they both bad, especially in transition. They both bad. You know what, Dr. Funk, the Froby Kobe looks better than the ball Kobe, but it don't look good either. It don't look good either. It looks better. It don't look good either. You look at him in the eyes, it look weird, man. He like Snoop Dogg cousin or something. It is something about it is still not right. Especially not for where we are. We got spot on renders for people like Lou Dortz. I mean, it's just no, bro. I think it could be better. Alex Campbell says my league needs way more dynamic player decisions, trade demands, contract length based on team performance and overalls, like 1 year for LeBron in Cleveland. Yeah, I can dig that. Living Legend says been rumors of trade demands happening. I hope it happens in next gen 2K. I hope so too. Alex Campbell says also a coach mode in 2K where you can be like Nick Nurse and start in the G League and work your way up. Yeah, I don't know how many people will do that though, Alex. I really don't. DC says 2K need to bring back when players are injured, they are on the bench with suits on. That's dope. I think overall, all sports games need to work on their injury presentation from the time they get hurt to the way you're notified of the severity of their injury to the way they behave after they get hurt. And like you're saying, the way they appear on the bench and stuff like that. And even in Madden, like on the sidelines and stuff. A lot of old features were taken for granted. Yes, they were taken for granted. Those player coaches made your team dope. Yeah. Another great idea, similar to what they had in College Hoops 2K8, you had to start a small school and work your way up to a big time deep one program. Yes. Let's see. Alex Campbell said, yeah, I just don't understand how an NBA game has ignored the coaching role so much. Yeah, I don't know, man, because especially with the NBA, man, so many people want to play the game. And I think that it's just such a small percentage of people who don't want to actually play. And I think I think why that's something that kind of just goes out of the window there, you know. Um, so that's what I think. Bring your own team philosophy to life and work with players would feel amazing. You were once a French NBA coach in G League and he played well for you. So when you get to the NBA, you sign up to a two-way with that relationship. Yeah, I think like from a structural standpoint, it sounds good. But what level of control does the player have? Because I just don't know if there's a lot of people who gonna want to watch and just coach, especially basketball. And for Madden, that's different, a little different. It's not a lot of people don't want to do it then either. But for basketball, I don't really know. Andrew says super random, but it'd be cool in 2K if you could create family relations among creative players, cousins, etc. Y'all getting deeper than me with some of this stuff. Like I'm like that. I have never thought about that, but it's interesting. Living Legend says I know Eric Benish is who you're talking about. Said they couldn't add this in current gen, but if they could figure out some type of in-season progression for players, that would be dope and rework the morale. Yeah, a lot of that stuff I hope can be in there. They said, can we get technical fouls in 2K, kind of like NHL games where they allow you to fight? I've talked to them about technical fouls, and I do think it'll make it in the game at some point. But I believe it's only going to be a franchise, a my league, my GM thing. Because like I said in the last stream, if you have one of these competitive gaming dudes get a doggone technical foul and it costs them something, they're going to lose their mind. Dope D says WNBA classic teams need to happen. I don't think that need to happen though, D. I mean, I got mad respect for the WNBA players, but honestly, bro, barely anybody play the WNBA as it is in the game right now. And I'm talking about from a straight analytics standpoint. Not a lot of people play that. So you mean to tell me you're gonna go get the Houston Comets with Cynthia Cooper and Cheryl Swoops, and you think people gonna play that? Go get an old Washington Mystics team with Shamika Holtzclaw. I don't think that a lot of people are going to play. We're gonna get the old New York Liberty with Teresa Witherspoon and Rebecca Lobo. I don't know. I mean, the league ain't hardly been around that long to have too many classic teams. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Ali A says, do you think that NBA Live at its height in the 2000s is bigger than 2K now? As a kid, no one talked about 2K only live. Live ain't never been as big as 2K is right now. Live ain't never been nowhere close to selling 10 million copies. 2K done sold 10 million copies for like 4 years in a row. So no way, nowhere close. Like 2K is like an institution. It's on a whole nother level. Live was never on this level. Let's see. I agree with Dope D. I would love to play with the Detroit Shock. Yeah, man, I hear you, but I don't think that. I think it might just be you and Dope D playing that. DC said, I remember wanting to see how Monty Ellis would look with the D Rose Bulls. You could hide his defense with their team defense. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you know what? And us in Chicago was begging for Monte Ellis, begging for it. I'm begging for it. Living Legend said it's not a fair comparison due to social media, but for me as a kid, Live was bigger than 2K. If I can use inflation from then to 2020, no, man, I'm telling you, bro, Live, like everybody in the world just about knows what 2K is. Live was never that popular. Live was popular. It was the most popular basketball game. That was what it was, though. It was the most popular basketball game. 2K is literally one of the most popular games, period, across the board, across all genres. Like 2K is like in the same conversations with like Call of Duty. Like Live was never as big as Zelda. Live was never as big as Super Mario Brothers. Live was never as big as Sonic the Hedgehog. Like those were the transcendent genre games. Live was never that. 2K literally is that now. So yeah, I don't think so. 1989, what's good, bro? Taylor Malone said, you think the NBA would allow them to make a game like that? I don't know which one you're talking about, Taylor. Jordan Lattimore says, I really hope they bring back a version of 2K Share or something close to it on next gen. Needs to be an easier and more efficient way for the 2K community to share content with each other. I mean, I think 2K Share is great when it worked. It just ain't working right now. When it worked, I think it was fine. Dope D says, how come the Dream Team and the Redeem Team? And you know what, Dope D, I can't understand why in the world they would even go the Olympic route and not include the Dream Team. Like, what are you doing? No, why would I? Well, you think I want to play with what is this? The two? I don't know even know what team they got on there. Nobody want to play with them. It was stupid. 1989 says NBA Live can really go high risk, high reward. They have absolutely nothing to lose. They don't, except for a couple more $1 million. They lost a bunch of that already anyway. So whatever. Joseph says, so for real, why can't the Timberwolves just figure that mess out? Because they really got pretty good talent. The Timberwolves do have decent talent. We'll see what happens this year, especially with this number 1 pick. Carl Mosley says, I feel it's going to be like current. In fact, young Shaq looks bad and Shaq scanned into the game. Yeah, I don't understand why the Shaq render ain't better. I feel like that should be better than it is. I'm not sure why that's that way. Do you think 2K will have crossplay anytime soon? I don't know about this first next gen version, but I do think at least the one after that probably will. That's just a guess. I have no information on that. Nobody has said anything like that to me, but it just feels like because of how big the game is and where like a lot of the major games like that are going cross platform, I think 2K will do that. It wouldn't totally shock me if this one coming up is going to be cross platform. It wouldn't, but I think that's something that definitely is going to happen. I think it could be, if now that I'm thinking about it, it could be a part of a whole expansion of the neighborhood, and that whole thing changing it to like 2K universe or something. and wrap that into it being cross-platform. That would actually be pretty cool. Max Zale says small feature, but 2K adding celebrity teams and putting them in the crowds was dope to me. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I never played with the Justin Biebers in them, but it was cool that it was in there. Dr. Funk says, do you think sports gamers would play a game like NFL head coach for all sports games? I think the same group of people who play head coach to begin with would play it, but I don't think that was a large enough group to warrant people continuing to play that. I think the best way to approach a game like that would be for a team, I believe, like, somebody needs to come at that like out of the park baseball for a PC. I think another company needs to come in and create that kind of an experience. Um, and I think it would have an audience. I do. I just don't think it would be a large audience, but I do think it would have an audience. Um, Andrew says that sparked an idea though, be able to have WNBA players in my team, Swoops, Tarasi, Cooper, Lauren Jackson, etc. Yeah. You know what I think? I've been saying this for a couple years. I think they should have fictional players in my team. I think every single month they should release a fictional player of whom they tell that person's story. Like, so they start telling the person's story at, like, maybe not every month, like every other month. They start telling this person's story and they just make them a fictional person, make them all up, and and do like a really kind of cool presentation, like reveal of the person, and then you put them in packs. So you've kind of explained who this person is, and by the second week of hyping this card up, whoever this person is, everybody wants it. But it's a fictional person, and I don't see why not. It's a fictional mode. It's a fantasy mode anyway. I think that would be amazing if they did that. Like, and it would give you something to really look forward to. Who's going to be this fictional player? And if it has certain skills, I could hear like real NBA players start calling themselves that, who play my team, as like a it's like a nickname. So I think that would be cool. Ali A says, what were your thoughts on Charles Barkley saying that 2K should donate to the retired players older than him to use his name and likeness? I think Charles doesn't really understand the process and he's just kind of being difficult. 2K has to pay already to get the access to these players. So from my understanding, they have approached Charles, and I don't understand. He said donate $1 million. I don't understand. Like I said this in the last stream. At some point, Charles is going to get so old, and we're really close to this now, that his inclusion in the game is not going to matter to anybody. Because you got to think about it. The people who really care if Charles Barkley's in the game or not are probably people who are at the youngest 28, 29 years old. Soon, those people will be even older. Many of them will stop playing the game at some point. The percentage or the group of people who care is going to continue to shrink every year. So ultimately, it's not even going to be a big deal that he's not in the game. So, I don't know what happens at that point, but we'll see. Nigel says all the 2K franchise ideas are great, but can we please do something to All-Star Weekend on next gen? I hope they do something. I hope they have it as a standalone mode. I honestly, you talking about next gen, I hope MLB The Show next gen All-Star game allows people to play in their actual uniforms instead of them generic All-Star uniforms that they create for everybody. My team already passed the edge. Let 99 Swoops dominate Shaq, and it's over. Right, exactly. Alex Campbell says Live had arcade mode activated on All-Star mode, which was fun and more realistic actually in feeling. Ali A says also apparently the reason the 2010 Lakers aren't in the game is because they can't find Bynum. Yes, I know. I've actually been trying to help find Bynum because I know someone who knows him. So I've been trying to go through them to get in contact with him. I just don't think he's interested. Honestly, I really don't think he's interested. I think he knows that people that they're looking for him, and I just think he's like, whatever. So that must mean he's all right with money, or something else is going on. But yeah, 2K just needs to donate to the RPA to get Barkley and whatever to get Reggie. Reggie has some weird demands about being in 2K, to my knowledge. It was like wanting to be in the game as an announcer as well, and some other weird stuff that I heard about him. But I don't know what's going on with Reggie. But he's in the same boat with Charles, and not as much because he played a little later than Charles. But ultimately, man, in a minute, it ain't even gonna matter to the most of the people that buy the game. So we'll see. Taylor Malone says, "Do you think the NBA would allow them to make an NBA live game that was free to play and strictly park?" I think that's the only thing, man. That's the only thing. Can they get the NBA to agree to it? But if you look at the fact that the NBA is okaying them not even putting a game out, if they okaying them not putting the game out, I would have to believe that they would okay them putting a free to play game out and giving them a percentage of the microtransactions. You making more money that way. I mean, and here's the thing: if it's free to play and strictly park, that doesn't mean that it can't have any NBA elements in it, right? You could still have, where people can control Joel Embiid or control whoever. So I don't think they have to eliminate all of the NBA flavor. I'm just saying, just have it, in the park setting and have that 5-on-5 kind of a thing. I think that would be, and then you have your grind where you're playing against NBA players, doing your single player stuff to kind of build your character up. So you can still, interpolate NBA in it. But yeah, I hear what you're saying though about that, which people don't realize how much the league controls these games. They control a lot of what can and cannot be done. Ali says his last question: who you got in game 7 tomorrow and why? I got the Celtics. And I got the Celtics because game 7s are generally won and pushed by star players, by guys who can take over games for segments at a time. That's how game 7s are usually won. And I don't know that the Raptors have that guy. But I know for a fact the Celtics got two guys who can perform on that level, in Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker. So I got the Celtics winning game 7. But yeah. See, 1989, was Skip Bayless a talking point already? It was not. Skip is, sometimes, man, I'm telling you, when you put the mic in front of somebody's face too often, it can happen to any of us. It can happen to all of us. After a while, you say enough, you're gonna say something you shouldn't have said. And especially when you make your living off of being extra. And that's exactly how he makes his living. And this comment completely dismissing mental health, it ain't okay, especially like right now, man. There's a lot of people struggling with mental health, man, to be honest with you. What's going on, OG? 2 cents, my man Kurt. King Kurt in the building. I appreciate you, y'all. For anybody that doesn't know, he's a manager coach for Nets GC in the NBA 2K League. I was on his podcast a few weeks ago. I appreciate you coming through, bro. But yeah, man, I'm telling you, man, I myself, man, have really struggled during this pandemic. Just maintaining day-to-day happiness, and then on top of that, racial unrest and all this stuff that's going on in the world, man. There's sometimes you got to remind yourself every day a reason to stay smiling. I thank God every day I wake up, every day he allows me to have. I thank God for just, for salvation and that sort of thing, for sure. But it's a grind, it's a day-to-day thing, man. And for Skip Bayless to try to diminutize Dak Prescott, saying that he was feeling some type of way or feeling depressed or anxiety, and then on top of that, the man's brother committed suicide like months ago. Yeah, bro. Skip. No, bro. You can't do that, bro. You just can't. Showtime is showtime, but there's certain things you just can't say, certain things you just can't do, certain takes you can't take. So I'm just gonna tell y'all already, tomorrow, you just get ready for the apology statement, because it's coming. It's coming. Unless they just yank him off. But I think they'll allow him to apologize, even if they're gonna yank him off. Kind of like they did Tom Brenneman for the Cincinnati Reds when he got caught on camera using saying mean things about gay people. I don't know what that dude was thinking about. I'm like, bro, how often? Like, I wouldn't even, like, bro, You go, are you serious? Like, even if you didn't think you was on air, you just gonna just lose your whole mind and just start saying all kinds of stuff at work. You still at work. You can't be at work saying whatever you want to say. That is not how the world works. You cannot be at work saying whatever you want to say. It just don't. That's not how it goes. So people, they learn the hard way. And you would think somebody as old as Tom Brenneman would know that, but I think maybe that's the problem. People get so old and they start feeling like they impervious. Well, he has found out that he is very pervious. So Andrew says fictional players should be based on fans. Do like a drawing, have the fan pick, do face scan. Yeah, that's a lot of liability in there, Andrew. They fool around and you fool around. Think about it. You do something like that and fool around. You put a dude in the game and he go and kill somebody or rob a bank. It can happen. And now all of a sudden, now you got a bank robber or a rapist or somebody's face running around in your game. And people start capturing it, talking about, look, ain't that Johnny? Didn't Johnny kill everybody? Well, he's a small forward for the Knicks now in 2K. No, that's a lot of liability, bro. You can't do that. Can't do that. Can't open it up to everybody. DC says Barkley is popular among the young crowd, being on TNT. Yeah, he's popular for that. And many of them know him for that. But they would it would probably mean more to them to have him in there on that TNT segment than it would to have him as a player, because many of them ain't even never seen him play. You know, my oldest son my oldest son will be 23 in September. He ain't never seen Barkley play ever. We had a conversation. I was trying to tell him how good Barkley was, and he ain't never seen Barkley play except for a highlight here and there. You know, and Barkley don't have the kind of highlights like Iverson or like Mike there or Vince Carter that make you, oh my God, it's different, you know. So 1989 says, funny part, Charles Barkley might be terrible competitively. He might be. I mean, that might be a horrible dude to play with in my team. Like a Charles Barkley card in my team, I don't know. It ain't gonna be good. It's gonna be like that Zion. That Zion was decent in my team, but I don't know. He said, please don't have Reggie as announcer. Weber's bad enough. Yeah, Weber, I don't know what Chris be doing, because I love Chris Webber, but I have no idea what he be doing. It's like he try to make everything he say epic instead of just talking. And I'm like, dude, just talk, bro. What's going on, Hollywood Sports? I appreciate you coming through, bro. 1989 say, okay, we get some Jimmy Butler love. Y'all know, you know how I feel about Jimmy Butler. He is not my favorite player. But I ain't gonna act like he ain't a great player. He's a good player. He's a very good player, but he's not great. I mean, he's not my favorite player. I don't particularly care for Jimmy Butler at all. But hey, that doesn't mean he's not good. Like my least favorite players in the world in the history of basketball: Karl Malone, Kevin Garnett, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hansbrough, probably Danny Ainge. There's a lot of Celtics on there, ain't it? Those are my least favorite players in the world. The only one of them guys who, by NBA standards, is like trash is Tyler Hansbrough. The rest of them, I would be. Just because I don't like them, don't mean that I can't say that they're good. Those are good players, but yeah, that's it. Let's see how you feel about the Michael Porter Jr. What he said. You know, my problem with what he said, Darren, was that I don't think you should ever say anything publicly about a team, your coach, before you have said it to the coach, or before you have. And to me, once you've said it to the coach or the team, there ain't no reason to say it publicly, because the media can't change what you got a problem with. All it can do is make you have a tougher situation once you come to the locker room, right? So you feel like they're not moving the ball enough. Okay. Now I haven't even got to the part where the fact that he's a rookie who ain't barely played, enough to be taking on this kind of a role. But I ain't even getting to that part yet. They asked him, does he think he is, because he's a rookie, does he think he's in a position where he can say something like this? He said, yeah, I'll probably say something to him about it, which means you have not said anything to him about it yet yourself. So why are you in front of millions of people throwing your coach under the bus? Because honestly, it doesn't even matter if he's right or not. That's not the point. The point is you work with these people, this guy. Y'all go into the trenches together, but you got a problem with him, and you're going to say it to millions of people before you say it to him. That's not cool. The second thing is, I do think there's something to be said for having some level of seniority or time with this group before you start criticizing the coach. Like, I do think there's something to be said for that. Like, bro, nobody didn't even know if you was going to ever play. It was worried about your back, your knee, your neck, and your back. Like, you was Ezel on Friday. I mean, so, and now you done had a nice little moment, and I ain't tripping Michael Porter Jr. like a monster. I just think that he showed a lot of immaturity by allowing his emotions to get the best of him. I don't think he was necessarily wrong from a strategical standpoint. I just think that wasn't the right way to do it. And a lot of times that's what happens with young people. They might have a point, but the way they go about it messes it all up. And I think that was an example of that. Let's see. DC said, yeah, Skip take was bad, but I think type of thinking is what the GMs, owners, and GMs think as well. You might be right. You might be right. You might be right. You know, because those people don't care nothing about the player as a person. They want to win or they want to make money. And I think you're right about that. But, you know, those GMs and those coaches or those owners would most of the time have sense enough to keep that thought to themselves. Even if it was going to influence their decision or what they were going to do, they would have sense enough to keep that to themselves and not come out saying that. And I think that's the whole thing. Like, I think it's a bad take, just period. But it's downright stupid to say something like that publicly, because you already know. You already know what's going to happen. Stephen A. Smith was locked up with his Ray Rice comment. Yeah, I can't remember what he said. I know it was something out there, but I can't remember. Oh, he was saying something about sometimes the females be pushing you, bro. I'm gonna tell you something, man. That's crazy. Ain't no way in the world. I don't care what she said. Ain't no way in the world you supposed to sock no doggone woman in the face like Ray. That is ridiculous. So, and I don't even want to hear nobody try to talk about how you can kind of see. Bruh, he balled his fist up and socked that girl in her face. It ain't nothing I can say for you on that, bro. Like, that's you, whatever punishment you got coming off that, you gonna have to eat that, bro. Cause that was not a good moment. That was not a good moment. And as a commentator, you would never catch me nowhere offering anything that sounded like a defense for him in that situation. That is just not a smart thing to do. Not good at all. And it don't make any sense because there ain't no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. Taylor Malone says, how funny was his apology calling the home run mid-sentence and then right? That was hilarious. My man called the home run and he was like, I'm gonna be going off the air for a minute because they just heard me. Yeah, y'all heard. Yeah, they heard me. So I gotta go. So, but that was a home run. Heck of a hit. I'll see y'all maybe never. I was like, oh my God, Tom. Tom used to do the Cubs games. And I'm like, bro, you done, Papa. You done, homie. You done. You might as well go and get your hat, get your coat, leave your worries on the doorstep, bro, because you is out of here. What's going on, Havoc? I appreciate you coming through, bro. Zakia Hussein says, according to the law of diminishing returns, the PS5 won't be as big a leap as the PS4. Do you believe this will apply to 2K during the next gen, or are things still there's still things to be excited about? I am still very excited about that. I was saying that early in the stream. I do have a feeling that it's going to be a nice leap, that visually especially you're going to see something. Andrew said, man, still don't like Jimmy. I'm consistent, Andrew, until I change my mind, but I'm generally consistent. But I give him his props. 1989 said, I hope somebody plays Brian in my team with that starting five. Yeah, Play me. That'll be dope. Havens, how do you feel about EA's patch causing more problems? They're going to be patching twice a week at this pace. You know what, man? This is a horrible year for EA, man. For Madden, I should say. This is bad, man. And you know what the thing of it is, the game is not as bad as it seems. Like, I mean, people just like the game is unplayable. It's not unplayable, but this is a bad year. They didn't work as hard as they needed to work in terms of their planning. Their planning wasn't proper from, I don't know if it was from the publishing side down to the develop. I don't know what it was, but they didn't focus on the right stuff. They focused on some areas that I don't think really changed the bottom line. And they had no idea these hashtags, the one I started or the one Soft Drink TV started, or none of that. They had no idea those hashtags were going to wreck them like that. Then they had all these bugs. They didn't seem to handle pandemic development quite as well as maybe even 2K did. Because, I mean, the gameplay for 2K is actually pretty solid, except for the shooting thing. You know, so, you know, they had a bad year, man. They had a bad year. Do you think the Rockets make any major changes this offseason? I think they got to, man. I think they have to seriously consider trading James Harden. I really do. I think they have to seriously consider trading James Harden, because doing whatever you would do with Russell Westbrook is not going to render you a whole bunch. And to be totally honest, they don't have anybody else on that team that's going to move the needle, really. You know, I think they have to seriously consider trying to ignite a rebuild by trading James Harden. And if I'm doing it, I'm trading him. I'm trying to trade him for draft picks. I'm looking at somebody. I would be scared to send him to Golden State, because in Golden State, I'm scared because he likes to hold the ball, and that's not the way they play. And then I don't even know where he would play. I guess you moving Clay to the 3, which I guess you could do, but I don't know. I don't know, but they need to be wanting to get high in the draft, you know. And I guess you could try to look at the Bulls, but I mean, what are you getting? You know, you give them James Harden for Zach LaVine and the number 4 pick. I'm not sure if I'm the Bulls if I do that. To be honest, I'm not sure if I am. So, but I definitely would consider moving him. Do you think Giannis, potentially the Bucks leaving, is bad for the NBA? I don't think Giannis is going to leave. I really don't. I think Giannis is trying to carve this different kind of path. But I don't think Giannis is going to leave. Last question: do you listen to Bomani? Yes, I do. I listen a lot, and I like a lot of things, same things about him that I do you. I appreciate that, bro. I do. I love Bomani. Bomani is an inspiration to me. You know, there's not a lot of brothers in journalism, sports journalism, and I dig him. You know, I dig him. I dig the way he expresses himself. He has a very distinct voice for delivering his information. Got a nice little sharp wit to him. So I dig him. So I appreciate that's a very cool comparison that I appreciate. Dope D said, what did Tyler do? And 1989 answered it for me. Tyler, I don't like dirty players. So if you think about the players that I said were my least favorite, a few of those guys are dirty. Danny Ainge was dirty. Karl Malone was dirty. Tyler Hansbrough's dirty. Kevin Garnett's was dirty. I don't dig dirty players. I don't like that at all. You know, I ain't got no. I don't dig it. I don't dig it. So if you play dirty, you probably not one of my favorite guys. Tyler acted like a tough guy, knowing David West was that for the Pacers. Yeah, he acted like a tough guy until Meta World Peace came upon him. He like, oh no, I forgot. You are going to kill me. And so since I'm my bad, he was out there like Ronaldo Ray. You want some of this, old man? No. Like, no, I don't want none of that. He went and sat down. Them dudes know. The only dude I ever seen act like he was gonna fight Ron Artest was Ben Wallace, and that was at the Malice of the Palace. You don't want Ron Artest is that dude. You don't want to fight Ron Artest. You don't. I promise you don't. Like, you don't want that. You don't want that smoke. And so Psycho T suddenly was quite sane T, because he didn't want none of that smoke. He said he liked Tyler slightly more than Marshall Henderson. Marshall Henderson didn't even play enough for me to even get an opinion about him. Me and him almost played the same amount of minutes in the NBA. As Campbell says, the Rockets should have kept CP3. They panicked and lost a great team. I do think. Well, CP3 was breaking down, but I think if he doesn't get hurt in that series against the Warriors, I think they would have beat them. So Dexter Pittman and Udonis Haslam took care of Psycho T. Yes, they did. Clippers should have traded the Landry Shamet instead of SGA in the PG deal unless they wanted him. I appreciate you, Jared Green. Ben Wallace was about it, baby. And the thing I love about Ben Wallace is he wasn't no guy walking around like I'm a tough guy. Don't pull it with me. But if you did, you like, oh, my bad, then. Don't choke me out. But I'm going to tell you, I ain't positive he would have beat Ron Artest. Ron Artest he different. Y'all don't want that. You don't want that problem. Tyler, he said 1989 says Tyler turned around and said, "Oh, my bad, Ron. You ain't lying." He said, "You know what? My bad, bro. I see sometimes I be acting crazy sometimes, and I'm really not, right? But sometimes I lose it, and I just need somebody to remind me that I ain't really crazy. And you just did that. So I thank you very much for the reminder. So you can go on about your way. I'm gonna go sit where I usually sit, which is on the bench. Thank you." I was like, dude, you better stop, man. Come around here messing with these people. You're gonna end up getting it. But that's all I got for you guys today. I went a little bit over the 2-hour mark. I appreciate everybody that came out as usual. I'm gonna try to do this again on Tuesday. And we're gonna see how long we can keep it going. But this is fun. I appreciate talking to y'all. Hopefully we have some next gen actual concrete news that we can discuss by that time. But as usual, I appreciate you watching. God bless and peace.